Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Welcome back to how a blank could win in blank. And today we're doing how a Republican can win in the state of Oregon. So, a Republican winning in the state of Oregon hasn't happened in a long time. I think Gordon Smith was the last person to do it statewide, and that was within the last 20-25 years. It's still been quite a long time, regardless. The last Republican governor was Victor Ataye, and that was back in the 80s. Okay, he's passed away by now. Rest in peace. In order for a Republican to win statewide in the state of Oregon, you would need to shift the state 17 points to the right from where it is currently, which is a D+16 state. And there's a lot of things you could do this, and that involves, pulling a Glenn Youngkin and maxing out dictator-like margins in the rural areas, as well as, pull off, larger than expected victories in the suburbs, and, minimize your damages in Portland. So, what kind of Republican is needed in order to win in the state of Oregon? And, a Rockefeller Republican. I know it's boring, but it's literally the best chance you've got is running a liberal Republican. I wouldn't say someone like Phil Scott, maybe a little bit more right on some, maybe a little bit more right than Phil Scott, though I couldn't tell you, an example off the top of my head of someone who's a Rockefeller Republican but ain't as liberal as Phil Scott, right? You understand what I'm trying to say? Maybe Brian Fitzpatrick. I think that's a good example, right? Brian Fitzpatrick. Let's say him. Let's say he's our Rockefeller Republican. But who are some Rockefeller Republicans, or, the closest thing we can find in the state of Oregon? Well, first, Knute Buehler. I don't think anyone's going to disagree that he is a Rockefeller Republican. The guy ran in 2018 and got the state under 10 points in a blue wave year. Smith, the former U.S. Senator. Honestly, I think if Gordon Smith ran for governor in 2022, he would have won. I think the environment would have been in his favor. And plus, he had Betsy Johnson there splitting the vote from Tina Kotek. And before you say she was taking votes from Christine Drazan, I want proof. I haven't seen anything, and I'm not going to argue with you, but I want the proof. Next, we have a former mayor, Shane Bemis. He's pretty popular within his area, which is a suburb, by the way, that votes Democrat. He's another great example. And then a former, or I think he's still playing the NBA right now, and that's Chris Dudley. I wouldn't say he's Rockefeller liberal, but, he's not a conservative either, right? These are the four closest things you're going to get to a statewide victory in the state of Oregon today, one of which is done in the past 20-25 years. Gordon Smith. Knute Buehler was this fucking close. If it was a red wave, he probably would have won. I would have loved to have seen a Governor Buehler. What's your strategy heading into a statewide race as a Republican in Oregon? We talked about it in the beginning of the video, but taking a look at 2022, it was a three-way race. Tina Kotek got 47% of the vote, Drazan got 43%, and then an independent named Betsy Johnson, who's a Democrat turned independent, got 8% of the vote. I don't remember who I supported here. I think it was Drazan, because I'm a filthy Republican. So as you can see here on your screen now, Drazan did very good with the vote splitting opportunities. However, she didn't do well enough. Of course, as you can see here, there are certain rural areas where, there should have been a lot more ruby red. Instead, it's more like, not ruby red, more bright red, if anything. I don't know, I'm not good with colors. So, of course, her campaign didn't do a good enough job focusing on the rural areas. Of course, I think she was DOA regardless. Even just ignore my past predictions where I thought she was going to win by a likely margin. Ignore those. Ignore those. Of course, the suburbs, not great either. And don't even get me started on Portland. Of course, this could have all been because of the Jackson v. Dobbs decision. I don't know. It could have been. It could not have been. So, how do you do this? Of course, you've got to win all of Betsy Johnson's margins, as well as all of Christine Drazan's margins. Also got to take away from Tina Kotek. Hell, or bring in new voters who did not vote at all. How do you do this? Ballot harvesting. Hell, there were reports out of fucking Portland where people were throwing in 2 ballots every single day with different names on them. Now, most of those people, innocent. Of course, they were probably dropping off ballots for other people, which is legal in the state of Oregon. However, that's fucked up if it's the same guy multiple days. Pretty sure one guy actually got busted for, fraud. Don't quote me on that. The suburbs are key. As I just said, you're not going to win in the state of Oregon without the suburbs, and even then, it's going to be razor thin, and the Democrats could still win by a lead margin. Also, you need to capitalize on issues such as poverty, the economy, and crime. We all know how crime-sickened Oregon is right now. We all remember the race riots back in 2020, and the riots that are still going on right now that aren't getting as much attention because it's the Biden administration. That's a little theory for you. Also, the economy, especially right now, Tina Kotek's not doing that great of a job in the economy. On social issues, she's doing pretty great for a Democrat. From a Democrat's perspective, she's doing great. I don't think she's doing great, but from a Democrat's perspective, she's doing great. Let me be very clear there. Economy, I don't think anyone agrees she's doing great, right? Unless, does anyone think she's doing great on the economy? Someone, please, is she doing good on the economy? And poverty, we all know how bad the homeless population is in the state of Oregon. I think she tried to take measures and then just forgot about it. I haven't heard anything about it lately because I posted about it, I'm pretty sure. I was like, hey, this is pretty good. And then I didn't hear anything about it afterwards. Kind of got sad because, homelessness is pretty bad in Oregon. It makes San Francisco look like the happiest place in the world. So looking if we were to take the Oregon 2022 governor map, what other counties do we need to target? If we were to get that exact same map, what other counties do we need to target? Well, there's only one, and that is going to be Clatsop. Clatsop County. It is this county right here. This one right, I'm pointing at it with this little cross thingy. That one right there. It's like very light shade of blue. Yeah. Kotek only won it by 3%, as well as less than 1,000 votes. If Drazen had won Clatsop County, she probably would have won the election. If not, would have barely lost it. Granted, it's not a guarantee. If you were to only do 3% in that county, then you still would have lost. But, I'm just saying if she did 3% or 4% better in every single county, she would have won. Or barely lost. Math. So, what's left to do? Well, you need to target Hispanic and Asian voters. Asian voters don't make up a large block of voting in the state of Oregon. However, as we saw in Virginia, that is still an important block, and if you could swing them over to you, you're still going to be swinging the election heavily in your favor, potentially, especially if you appeal to these voters. And a Rockefeller Republican might do it. We see Young Kim and Michelle Steele doing it very successfully where they're at right now. Mike Garcia, David Valadao, the big four in California that I will never, and I mean never stop calling them as such. Hispanic voters, I don't think that I need to explain this one. You just have to be a bit careful in how you do it. You don't want to be extremely right wing on, your immigration policies. But since we're running a Rockefeller Republican, there is no need to worry there. You need to take left-wing stances on education. Again, Rockefeller Republican, I don't think we need to worry. So some things such as universal pre-K, universal school lunch and breakfast, public education funding, and increased teacher salaries. That last one is something that Trump Republicans are starting to support en masse. So that's a good thing. You might even win some, Trump voters with that. Especially with this next one, trade protectionism. Oregon is a state where, trade is a big deal there, especially since part of the state is on a coastline. So they're getting imports, they're exporting. Trade protectionism is going to help a lot. Also need to be a climate conservationist, not like, the squad, but more like Ron DeSantis. You need to conserve what little is left, right? Like your national parks, the forests, the water systems, like that. Okay, that is not something that's going to turn off Republican voters, okay? Don't you look at me like that. It's the truth. Ron DeSantis won by 19. And he was called out for his climate conservationist it was by someone. I think it was by another Republican. I think it was Roger Stone. And he still won by 19. Also, you need to max out already Republican areas. I said this earlier, you need to have Youngkin dictator-like margins. Why I say Youngkin at the beginning of that? Because he won the rural areas in Virginia by 90%. Or he won it with 90% of the vote. You get what I mean. You need to reach out for an endorsement from Betsy Johnson. She won 8% of the vote, and now that's not guaranteed that entire 8% is going to go swinging your way because, there's a chance it's not, publicized as big, and so those Johnson voters might vote for Kotek because they don't know. So, and you don't want to make it seem like you're desperate for them either. You need to walk a fine line. And if you can win all 8% of that, you are in business, all right? You win the election. Well, if it was 2022, that is. Also, you need to take a lesson from Lee Zeldin. Only focus on the issues. Every time Donald Trump or whoever the fuck is being mentioned has anything to do with the issues, you pivot back to the issues. You just say, look, I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about this, this, and that. Kind of a big deal with these, these videos is just, hey, stop worrying about nationalizing this race and just focus on the issues. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Caddick One saying, peace.